This is a clarinet tutorial of Taylor Swift's My Tears Ricochet. And this is the Taylor Swift Folklore filter. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm doing two videos for this one, and one of them is going to be if you want to stay in the lower range of the clarinet, either just because you really like that range or because you're a newer student and you're getting used to going over the break. A is going to be the highest note that we're going to need, and it's a really great way to get used to adding more fingers before you try to add the register key and go to the high notes. Or I have another video where I do more with playing with the timbre of different registers of the clarinet with this song. So if you are excited to try out different registers, switch over to that instead. To learn this piece, we're going to use our D major scale, and I'm just going to do the first octave and then the lower register for this video. D major is going to use F sharp, this one, and this one. There's also an F sharp over here, but I prefer this one right now, but it's totally up to you. And C sharp, which is C, with this pinky key here. And then if you want to learn the rest of your scale, even though we don't need it for this video, you're going to use C sharp here, or C sharp, which is the same as our F sharp fingering, just with the register key. So it's going to be D, E, F sharp, G, A. When we get to B, you have two options for B. You can do this B on the right, which means you'll use this C sharp on the left, and then D. Or you can do A, this B on your left, and then this C sharp on your right, and then D. So I'll play both versions for you. It's good to know both, but you can pick one for now to practice. Or we're only going to need A and below for this piece, but we are going to need to go below our scale. This is the lowest D we can play on our instrument, so we can't start any lower than that for the beginning of the scale, but we can go down. So I'm just going to do that scale backwards, and we've already gone over some of the notes we're going to need. F sharp down here, and C sharp right here. Just to resolve, because I go up, because you can't go down. Or if you want to use your other pinkies. And you'll notice this is the same pinky combination, this one and this one, or this one and this one, that we used at the top of the scale for our second octave. So we're going to start with learning the verses. The melody for the verses repeats every time the verse comes back. So once you learn this part, you'll be ready for the whole rest of the song, except the chorus and the bridge. The opening verse goes from a D all the way down to another octave D. If we want to stay in this range of the instrument, we can't do that. I'll play it for you. We run out of notes, so you can go back up to this D. We know all of these notes from our scale. We're starting on our Do, our root of the scale. Or you can go back up. That's going to borrow from the melody we're about to see for the second half of this opening phrase, and you can do whichever one sounds better. As a third option, A, G, F sharp, D. So that's totally up to you, whatever you think sounds the best. And then for our second line, La, Ti, Do, we're just going up our scale. Great news for us. That's why we learn scales. Very familiar to what we've just done. And those are all the notes you're going to need every every time the verses come back. You have all of the tools that you need to make your own musical decisions here. And now we're at the chorus. So basically, there's two very similar phrases that are a pair. They go together, like a call and response. We start off the same way every time. And the only difference between them is how the phrases end. So the first one, I didn't have it in myself to go with grace. She backs away at the end of that, and we can do that also. And then the second one, the hero flying around saving face, she goes through that phrase. The other thing to watch out for here is she has a nice, really elegant and very subtle voice break. Right before the G. So I have a little bit of space between the note before the G and the G, and then I can place the G. And then the next part of the chorus is very similar. We just get to change the rhythm a little bit. We're just repeating those E's, and the important part here is the phrasing. So we have our mini phrase, which is what happens within each, like if you were to hear a comma in her speech, each set, curse in my name is one mini phrase, but then the whole line, curse in my name, wishing I'd stayed, look at how my tears ricocheted, needs to make sense all together. So overall, we're going to be mostly crescendoing through that to lead to the end of the phrase. And then within each of those sets, we also need to be crescendoing and then putting a little bit of weight on the last note. The other important part to this is the space in between it. And then now we're at our bridge. Everyone loves a good Taylor bridge. So we've seen most of these notes before, and really a lot of these musical ideas before, and that's, I think, what's so brilliant about this is we haven't gotten a ton of drastically new information here, but it feels that way because it's presented in such a good musical way. Chorus, I like to do a lot and pay extra attention to my dynamics here. After the bridge, usually when a chorus comes back, it's a lot stronger. What I might do is start my return chorus a little bit softer and then crescendo through it for my last version. So my first one might be a little bit softer even than I was earlier in the song. As I got through the second version of that, I did a crescendo, right where she does a crescendo with battleships will sink beneath the wave. So really around your A, G, and B, so that when I get to the E and D, I'm really at my strongest that I've been in the whole piece. Hi, I'm Jessica, and I love pop music and the clarinet, and I make these tutorials so that you can too. Great pop singers and great pop songs have a lot of great things to teach us about how to be musical, how to have a good tone, and how to get through the range of our instrument. They're also a great way to think about how your scales are applied in practice. I go through a lot of different things in these videos, and they're intended for people with a variety of experience levels. Feel free to skip around, jump over things, come back to things, and just take whatever is useful for you and skip over whatever's not. Either way, I hope you have lots of fun exploring your instrument and thinking about all the great things that you as a musician have to share.